Social progress can be measured by the social position of the female sex. Sex is a part of nature. I go along with nature. Love is an ice cream sundae, with all the marvelous coverings. Sex is the cherry on top. Software is like sex. It's better when it's free. Sex is emotion in motion. Sex. The pleasure is momentary, the position ridiculous, and the expense damnable. There are two things people want more than sex and money: recognition and praise. The romantic love we feel toward the opposite sex is probably one extra help from God to bring you together, but that's it. All the rest of it, the true love, is the test. The big difference between sex for money and sex for free is that sex for money usually costs a lot less. Money, it turned out, was exactly like sex. You thought of nothing else if you didn't have it and thought of other things if you did. Women need a reason to have sex. Men just need a place. Remember, sex is like a Chinese dinner. It ain't over till you both get your cookie. Sex pleasure in woman is a kind of magic spell. It demands complete abandon. If words or movements oppose the magic of caresses, the spell is broken. I'm at the age where food has taken the place of sex in my life. In fact, I've just had a mirror put over my kitchen table. Wherever there is a human being, I see God-given rights inherent in that being, whatever may be the sex or complexion. Sex is like money, only too much is enough. I believe that sex is one of the most beautiful, natural, wholesome things that money can buy. Sex is as important as eating or drinking, and we ought to allow the one appetite to be satisfied with as little restraint or false modesty as the other. For example, the equivalent of a woman being treated as a sex object is a man being treated as a success object. There's nothing better than good sex. But bad sex? A peanut butter and jelly sandwich is better than bad sex. Instead of being presented with stereotypes by age, sex, color, class, or religion, children must have the opportunity to learn that within each range, some people are loathsome and some are delightful. Reading computer manuals without the hardware is as frustrating as reading sex manuals without the software. Sex is a doorway to something so powerful and mystical, but movies usually depict it in a completely flat way. The 60s are gone, dope will never be as cheap, sex never as free, and the rock and roll never as great. In America, sex is an obsessio.
In America, sex is an obsession. In other parts of the world it's a fact. Sex at age 90 is like trying to shoot pool with a rope. I know a man who gave up smoking, drinking, sex, and rich food. He was healthy right up to the day he killed himself. Though the sex to which I belong is considered weak, you will nevertheless find me a rock that bends to no wind. Women are systematically degraded by receiving the trivial attentions which men think it manly to pay to the sex, when, in fact, men are insultingly supporting their own superiority. I need more sex, okay? Before I die I wanna taste everyone in the world. Woman is the dominant sex. Men have to do all sorts of stuff to prove that they are worthy of woman's attention. No self-respecting woman should wish or work for the success of a party who ignores her sex. Being a sex symbol is a heavy load to carry, especially when one is tired, hurt and bewildered. Blake said that the body was the soul's prison unless the five senses are fully developed and open. He considered the senses the windows of the soul. When sex involves all the senses intensely, it can be like a mystical experience. Sex and beauty are inseparable. like life and consciousness. And the intelligence which goes with sex and beauty, and arises out of sex and beauty, is intuition. There is no age limit on the enjoyment of sex. It keeps getting better. Sex without love is merely healthy exercise. There's no religion but sex and music. Not every religion has to have street. Augustine's attitude to sex. Why even in our culture marriages are celebrated in a church. Everyone present knows what is going to happen that night. But that doesn't prevent it being a religious ceremony. My wife is a sex object. Every time I ask for sex, she objects. Seduction is always more singular and sublime than sex, and it commands the higher price. Sex is the mysticism of materialism and the only possible religion in a materialistic society. The only unnatural sex act is that which you cannot perform. Sex is a momentary itch. Love never lets you go. Sex hasn't been the same since women started enjoying it. Sex is like washing your face. Just something you do because you have to. Sex without love is absolutely ridiculous. Sex follows love. It never precedes it. Just because society, and government, and whatever was different 100 years ago, doesn't mean that people didn't have sex, pick their nose, or swear. I need sex for a clear complexion, but I'd rather do it for love. Sex is perfectly natural. It's something that's pleasurable. It's enjoyable and it enhances a relationship. So why don't we learn as much as we can about it and become comfortable with ourselves as sexual human beings, because we are all sexual. Sex and older women used to be considered an oxymoron, rarely mentioned in the same breath. There are only two guidelines in good sex. Don't do anything you don't really enjoy, and find out what your partner needs, and don't balk them if you can help it.